There we go. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living's Wednesday night Oasis. We are glad that you are here with us this evening. My name is Reverend Sally Bartholomew. I am a licensed minister with the Centers for Spiritual Living, and I get to welcome you here this evening, and I get to be the host this evening. So what is Wednesday night service? What's the Oasis? Well, the Oasis is a place between Sundays where we can come together to be spiritually refreshed and renewed. Most Wednesday night services build on the theme or the topic from the previous Sunday. Now, last Sunday, Reverend Jerry Carter introduced ideas inspired by the talk, "Everybody Else is Already Taken." Okay, she gave it a little twist when she gave the talk, but that was the talk title. And tonight, we'll have practitioner Constance Chapman continuing the exploration of this same topic. So we present our Wednesday night services in a satsang style, building off the principles and the practices shared during the previous Sunday, with the intention that these gatherings, these Wednesday evening gatherings, are to be informal, intimate, and interactive. So this year's annual theme for 2023 is Living Out Loud, and the monthly theme for the month of March is Cultivating Authenticity. So I would like to welcome you if you are new to this community. If you are, I encourage you to visit our webpage, www.oaklandcsl.org. And then on that page, you'll see right at the top, the I'm New icon. When you click on that, you'll have an opportunity to provide your email. And once you do, you'll start receiving the Village newsletter once a week, usually on Thursdays, in your email. And it has all the information on what is happening at the center in the coming weeks. So before we get started, this is a Zoom meeting, so we've got some housekeeping notes. We encourage everyone to turn off your video cameras and mute your audio during the presentation. Once Constance or the speaker opens it up for interaction, we'll let you know, and then you're welcome to turn on your video and your audio. Now, I also invite you to stay tuned through to the end of the service so that I can share with you some special and very important announcements. So this evening, as I said, we have Constance Chapman, a practitioner at the center, and she's also our administrative coordinator for the center. She'll be taking us through the topic, and before we get started, she'll take us into prayer. So Constance, come on board.
Thank you, Reverend Sally. Yes, so let's just take a breath and just allow ourselves to go into that place of quiet, that place of divine connection. Because what I know is that energy that we call God, that energy that we call God is so expansive, it's so infinite. And that contained within that energy is the energy of all of the deities, by whatever name they have ever been called. It's the same energy, but in different places at different times, it's been called different things. And whether it's been called one name or 5 names, it doesn't make any difference. It is the same energy. It's an energy of love. It's an energy of peace, an energy of vitality. It is the very life force from which we all spring. And what I know is that that's my life. And I know that that's the life of everyone on this call. And I'm just so very grateful that we're gathered here together tonight. I'm so very grateful for this opportunity to be with you, to speak with you. This very opportunity for the ancients to work through me, to share stories, to share vision, to share insights. And that, as I know that's true for me, I know that that is true for you, that those very same, our ancestors, our ancients are all working through us and as us and is us, right here and right now. And I'm just so grateful. And so I just know that tonight is blessed and very blessed, that everyone who's supposed to be here is here, that whatever anyone is supposed to take away, they take away. And so please join me in saying, and so it is.
And so it is.
So today, in addition to being Wednesday night and the topic that we're speaking about, it's also International Women's Day. And International Women's Day is celebrated in many, many countries in the world to commemorate the women's rights. And I just want to share something with you. I'm going to share my screen and show you something. As soon as I find it. Aha, it was hiding at the bottom. So this is, I want to show you, this is what's called the goddess timeline. And as you can see, it goes from what we know as the beginning of the time all the way up to present day. And throughout that, there have been images and names given to what we know as the one God in the name and the formation of a female deity. And the story I'm going to talk to you about tonight is coming from the Bronze Age. This was like from 5000 BC up to about 1000 BC, so 4000 years. It was 1000 years before the beginning of the Common Age. And as you can see, so you know, sometimes we hear the saying that that the divine feminine is coming back. Well, I just want you to see the divine feminine never went anywhere. That the divine feminine has been with us since the beginning. We've sometimes forgotten about it. And on this slide, this is the Bronze Era in the Mesopotamia. That's the area that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is now southern Iraq. And I've circled all the different places, all the different ways that Inanna, who is the goddess we're going to talk about tonight, showed up in many different forms. And one of the things about Mesopotamia at this time was it was the cradle of one of the beginning of the very first civilizations. They lived in city-states, and they actually began the very first writing. And the writing is what you see here in what's called a cuneiform tablet. And so one of the things that we're blessed with is that a lot of the stories were preserved on those cuneiform tablets. They weren't found until within the last 100 years, but they were preserved, and that's often been lost in many other in many other areas where the goddess was part of their life. So the story I'm going to tell you today is called Inanna and the God of Wisdom. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'll tell you this story, and then we're going to go back and deconstruct it and look at what we can learn about it, about our authenticity from this story. So Inanna at this point in the stories that we have of her, she was still a young goddess. She had not yet taken a partner or consort. And unlike most women today, she really thought she was something. She really knew she was something. And before she set off on this journey, she just reveled in herself. So Inanna set off for Abzu without an invite. She didn't text or call first, and she went off to visit Enki, the god of wisdom, who's also her father, grandfather. The relationships in the god world were a little more flexible than what we know. This really wasn't following protocol, but she did it. But Enki, whose ears were open wide, instructed his servant to invite Inanna inside and to serve her honey cakes and beer. And so they sat and they drank together. They drank and they drank. Quite a lot of beer for quite a long time. And after a while, Enki began to recite the powers that he held. He recited them several at a time as a gift to Inanna. And whenever he paused, young Inanna raised her flagon of dense dark beer and said, "I'll take them." The maze, the powers of the world included the crafts given one at a time, the arts of the woodworker, the copper worker, the scribe, the smith, the leather maker, the fuller, the builder, the reed worker. After each one, Inanna said, "I'll take them." And rituals and heightened senses were given to her. As she said, "He gave me truth. He gave me descent into the underworld. He gave me ascent from the underworld. He gave me the perceptive ear. He gave me the power of attention." And emotions were also included in the maze. Fear, consternation, dismay, joy, love. He gave her cosmic laws. She says, "He gave me heart soothing. He gave me the giving of judgments. He gave me the making of decisions." So 14 times Enki and Inanna repeated their ritual of drinking to the list. 14 times Inanna said, "I'll take it." The very last powers were those of judgment and decision. And when Inanna said, "I'll take them," all the powers passed over to her. Meanwhile, Enki had passed out on his couch. Inanna instructed her servant Ninsaber to pack all the powers into her vehicle, the boat of heaven. And that referred to the crescent moon shape. And accompanied by Ninsaber, the goddess queen Ninsaber, set sail across the sky. The two were happily rocking away in their crescent-shaped shining boat when far below them Enki wakened. He called for assistant. "Where are my cosmic powers?" The assistant said, My lord, you gave them to the young woman Inanna." "Well, where is the power of attention? Where is the power of decisions?" "My lord," repeated the assistant, "you gave them to the young woman Inanna." Inanna shouted, "Go and bring the boat of heaven back to me." Obeying Enki, Ismud, who was the servant, set out into the sky to regain the powers from the goddess. He said to Inanna, "My queen, your father has sent me to you. Your father's words are words of state. They may not be disappointed."
Constance, can I interrupt for a minute? Some folks are having difficulty hearing what you're saying. So can we get you to use your headphones?
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Well, we checked it before we started and it didn't make
Yeah, it seemed okay, but
Is that better?
yes, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, Ismud set out and he said to Inanna, "My queen, your father has sent you to me. Your father's words are words of state. They may not be disobeyed." In response, Inanna answered, "My father has changed his word to me. He has violated his pledge, broken his promise." And she refused to return the maze. So Ismud set the wild-haired Enkum creatures to seize the boat of heaven. Inanna crawled out to Ninsaber. "Come, Ninsaber, you are the faithful servant of the holy shrine of Uruk. Water has not touched your hand. Water has not touched your foot. My Sukul who gives me wise advice. my warrior who fights by my side, save the boat of heaven with the holy May. Ninsiber engaged all that Ismid sent, everything he threw at her in the way of giants, thunder and lightning, monsters, ghastly forces and terrible illusions, she thwarted and threw back at him. They went round and round like this 6 times until Enki's assistant gave up. And Enki acknowledged that Inanna, as queen of heaven and earth, deserved the cosmic powers and was capable of dispensing them. She and Ninsiber sailed the boat of heaven to the dock of Inanna's city, where the people turned out in high jubilation with drums and horns to celebrate their return. As they unloaded the boat, more May appeared, more May than Enki had given Inanna. She brought the placing of the garment on the ground. She brought allure. She brought the art of women. She brought the perfect execution of the May. So that's a story that I want to share with you. And now I'm going to actually, let's start to take it apart because, and see why it is. So what does this story tell us about authenticity and the journey to authenticity? Because being authentic is a journey. It's not a task we put on our to-do list and check it off. Brene Brown says it's decisions we make 100 times a day. So let's start at the end of the story. When Inanna arrived at her city-state, and the village and the community unloaded the boat, more May than Enki had given her showed up. So what is this about? So what I know is that when we know who we are and stay true to it, we find and discover gifts and Mays we hadn't acknowledged previously. Often these gifts come from things about ourselves we hadn't liked or didn't acknowledge. The second thing I think from this story is that the journey to living authentically isn't smooth. Let's look at the conflict that arose when Enki woke up and wanted the May back. What was going on? Well, I think that when we step into our authenticity and get pushback, which we often do, we have a choice. Inanna could have said, "Oh, I'll never question Enki's words. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He has the final word. Take the powers back." Or she could have said, "Oh, I don't want to hurt Enki. He's so precious to me. I don't need them. Take them back. Take them back. I don't really need them. I can get them later." Instead, she called on Ninsiber to save the boat of heaven. So this is an aside, and if anyone, it took me a long time to figure this out, but who is Ninsiber in Science of Mind language? Think about that. So that's one thing, is that we can get pushback and we have a choice how we're going to deal with that pushback. The second thing is that on our journey to authenticity, we get tested. Are we really ready to acknowledge and own our own true self? I'll tell you a story. When I was in my second year of prac studies, I got called in to talk to the teacher at one point. It was towards the end of the second term. And she was asking me a lot about different things that I was doing, some of my spiritual practices. And she let me know that she wasn't sure she wanted, that I was ready to go on. And at that point, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was a practitioner. And it was like I put my stake in the ground and I said, "I don't know what I have to do. You tell me, I'm going to do it. I am a practitioner." So for me, that was really stepping into that power, just really acknowledging I wasn't just taking a class and writing papers, but that I was being something, and I was stepping into it. So moving away from our family of origin and our family of origin culture is often a time we get tested. And the third thing that I think is important is that when we step out into our new greatness, when we step out into our own authenticity, we often send our own demons to stop us. So we don't have to have a grandfather to send the demons after us. We do it ourselves. So we're going to go into small groups in just a moment, but I've got some questions for you that I will put in the chat. So on your journey to authenticity, what gifts have you received? What choices have you made when you got pushed back on being authentic? Would you make those same choices now? Have there been times when you've been tested and embraced or endured the test? What was the outcome? Have you turned back when tested? How did that turn out? And how do you deal with your internal demons that want to stop you? So I'll put those in the chat. And so Peter, if you could put us into groups of into groups, and we'll have 10 minutes to discuss these questions with another person.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Here we go. Have fun.
But I guess not.
So that time went quickly, didn't it?
Yes.
Did anyone have some insights they'd like to share about this journey to authenticity and those questions that I posed?
Okay.
Bonnie?
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to find the raise my hand.
Okay.
the raise my hand button, but I got my hand up. I guess I can put my hand down. We didn't get to see the questions that you had posed, Constance, and Reverend Sunshine, and I hope it's okay if I share a little bit of our time together. Just being able to stand in our own authenticity and knowing that, as Reverend Sunshine was saying, that there can be pushback, if you want to say pushback, or not being accepted, or having to drop friends because of of,
Mhm.
standing in your authenticity and knowing that's real.
Mhm.
But I was feeling too that the poem, The Invitation,
Mhm.
it talks about, are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself? That has helped me move through a lot of difficult
Mhm.
situations. And being mature girls helps also.
Yes.
That we have tools and we have skills that we've learned and developed. Wise woman wisdom.
Mhm.
So I'm complete.
Thank you.
Sally, go ahead.
Thank you. Let me lower my hand here. Oops. Hold on. Okay. I was in the room with Rev Deb, and one of the things that we spoke to was the fact that for me, and I'll speak for me, when I have stood for my authentic self, it's generally at a time when spirit has given me clear direction that this is the way to go, and only you can do this for yourself. And so the pushback has been, sometimes it's been shock, what are you doing? And the clarity of knowing what spirit is telling me has given me the strength and the courage to do it each and every time that I've done that. So it's very clear for both of us that that's important, recognizing that knowledge within and following that knowledge within. And we didn't really talk about too much about the internal demons, but I know from my own experience that when I have followed spirit's direction like that, the internal demons do come up and they do start chattering in the background. And it's just all about checking in with my heart and checking in with spirit, saying, am I still going in the right direction? And whenever I get that yes, then it's okay. The answer is yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Has anyone experienced gifts, things showing up about themselves, things that they didn't know about themselves that turned out to be gifts when they stepped into their authenticity? That's B, I think, has her hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I can say that growing into my authenticity, there has been some pushback that was painful. But the gift that I found, one of the gifts I found, is being true to myself, honoring myself. What are my goals? What are my intentions? What are my core values? How does this resonate with what spirit has for me to do? And when I look at it now, I am so grateful that I got to be the part that I have been and that I am even today. It's freeing, it's authentic. I get to show up and I get to show up and let spirit show out and laugh at myself and just be with people. Because I think for me, that is one of the key things is being with people and how I learn to be with people. So trusting myself and accepting the pain and realizing unto my own self be true, as sure as night follows the day, thou canst be false to any man. Shakespeare.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and I want to say I really enjoyed that story that you were sharing with us, and especially about Iraq because of all the things that they're going through now.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing and amazing and yet uncomfortable in the sense of who will take responsibility for a war that did not need to be. And I'm complete on that, only because I'm a veteran. And it's like, who will take responsibility on that war that did not need to be? Thank you.
Anyone else have an experience of getting gifts when you step into your authenticity? Reverend Sunshine. Got her
Yeah,
hand up.
I found it. Um, Empowerment is the gift that I found, because as I was saying to Bonnie in our group, when I'm trying to figure out how to say this, when I first started with authenticity and exploring it, which has been quite some time ago, I was quaking in my boots sometimes, and I second guessed myself, and I didn't do some of the things I was being led to do. And then when I found my power, or that encouragement, or that, as my grandma would call it, my holy boldness, which is God speaking,
Right.
and I would step out there regardless of what people would think or how they would judge me or what have you, which really used to mean a lot to me. I didn't want to be excluded or what have you. I found that, I would do it, and then it wasn't as bad as I thought. Sometimes it was a little unnerving, but I kind of got on a momentum, because the next time it felt easier to do. And then I felt empowered, especially when I would step out there. Let's say, for instance, I'd start saying something and it would make me cry. And, I'd be the first one out there, out the gate. So it's like, you don't have anybody to judge by. And I learned that it would most always, empower somebody else to let their emotions come out, or ask another question, or would open up the conversation. So I found that to be very freeing and empowering over time. The more I do it, the more empowerment that I felt.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
So another question is, how have because one of the questions that you didn't get to see was, what choices have you made when you got pushback or feedback? And has anyone here ever backed down, just decided to go along with the group rather than to deal with that pushback? I certainly, I know I did when I was younger, into my 20s, and sometimes even into my 30s, well, even into my 30s. And I was often felt like I was trying to fit in where I didn't really fit. But I felt like the group was more important than I was. So one of the gifts was when I finally realized that I could be who I really am, and I would find like-minded people. Sally, do you remember the word for the flamingo groups that I said this morning?
A flamboyance.
A flamboyance, yes. That flamingos form very tight groups, and they form them. They're called whatever that word was she just said, what I love.
Boy,
Flamboyance.
Flamboyance, yes. But they base it on different characteristics. So they find other flamingos who are like them, so that they don't have to try to be something they're not. So I found that really interesting when I read that. And
Gabriella, go ahead.
Well, I think I've been learning the last few years that if you're contracting around certain people, like friends, maybe you're not really friends. Maybe they're not the best friends in your life if you find yourself burying yourself. And I've found that over the last few years. And I think COVID had a little bit of an influence on that, just because you sort of had to figure out who you want to pod with, or I feel like you kind of got rid of the superfluous, is that the word? And just kind of family close. Who are the people I have to absolutely see right now, or can keep in my life right now? And in some way, it was sort of this graceful arrangement of, okay, well, who's important? Who's important to me right now? But and then after COVID, I I think I've been getting on more of a authentic new path of doing healing work in the world. And another healer told me, you know, some people might vibrate out of your energy field, because when you're doing your work and you're healing yourself, you're vibrating at a different frequency, and people, you might not attract the same people that you used to attract. And maybe that's okay. You know, I've had to learn to I've had to let go of a few friends that I realized, oh, I kind of bury myself a little bit around them, or if I can't share my interests that are a little esoteric or a little metaphysical, or they either don't agree, or they don't really know how to keep up in the conversation, or you know, I ask myself, oh, am I hiding my interests? So is this the most fulfilling friendship for me to hold on to, and to be okay with that? If, like you said, like-minded people are important, and also people who let you expand and give you space to expand. And sometimes I like it when people can expand with me too. Sometimes so we both don't feel restricted, and I think that contributes to feeling your authentic self. So
Right.
I am complete.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Gabrielle. Ryder, go ahead.
Yeah, so Constance, you were talking about, you know, were there ever moments when, you know, we didn't stand up for ourselves and sort of went with the, you know, majority group opinion and things of that nature? And yes, of course. I mean, it also depends where I was in my life. So for many years, I was in corporate America. So in my 30s, 40s, and yeah, they are very intricate rules, and depending on the company where you work. But you know, I went in, and in the morning I put a mask on, you know, my corporate America mask, because, and then, you know, I made sometimes decisions that I did not stand up for myself, because, well, I wanted to get, you know, achieve more, get further, get that promotion or what have you. And I view this very differently now, because I'm not in corporate America anymore. And probably not all companies are like that, but you know, the one I was in had you know, these sort of mask people, many people with wearing masks, for sure. And yeah, that sort of, and then so it kind of, it's all these years that you go away from of large periods of your life away from your authentic self, and then later on, when you have the freedom not to be in that organization or what have you, then you are turning around sort of and come back. For in my life now, in my last 10 years, through meditation, through, you know, very different life experiences, to a more authentic self. It's interesting how that goes. I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's it's really interesting, because it's something I've been thinking about, Reinhardt, is that you know, part of my background is as a sociologist, and it's very clear that group norms develop everywhere, and even in spiritual communities. So the question is, how do we be authentic in a group when not everyone has the same idea about what is proper? And when do you put the mask on, and when do you not? And does the spiritual community actually allow you to live without a mask? Or do you have to sometimes put that on even in a spiritual community? So those are questions that I don't have answers for, but I think that they're ones that my guess is that Reverend Sunshine is going to lead us into this, to looking at that, some of those questions as we move along this month and this year and in the next 50 years. So, and I think she's going to say something about that right now.
Right.
We've been working together for a minute. You can tell. Am I muted? It says muted. Can
No.
you hear me? Oh, okay. Because I was thinking that's bingo. That's it, Constance. I mean, my sense in where I'd like to, I want to say take the community. I mean, y'all, we're going to take each other into a space. My hope is that into a space of sacred space, into a space of beloved community where we can go there, where we can tenderly and compassionately and sometimes carefully and honestly have those conversations. That's where the healing is.
Mhm.
I'm convinced. I mean, and unless we're willing to change our stories and, you know, kind of lean in, as I'm always talking about, and hear differently and open the space and not presume and give people, like Gabriella said, you know, some space to be who we are, doesn't mean you have to like it or you have to understand it fully. But that doesn't mean that you can't embrace it. It's the
Right.
same way in families, you know, how siblings don't necessarily all get along just because you're in the same family.
Mhm.
So you're right. I mean, I'm hopeful that we'll get there with the listening circles and other things.
Yeah, speaking of which, people need to remember to register, which I think that if they're, oh, Bonnie, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to dovetail on Reverend Sunshine and you talking about, and Reinhardt brought it up with the mask, that I find that the biggest masks that people are expected to have in place are in the spiritual community and in your family. And I'll keep it in the eye. Especially in my family, spiritual community, I can be my authentic self with all the edges and roundness and all those things, but family, that is where I find it to be the most challenging. So I just wanted to add that, and I'll be talking about that next Wednesday as well with Reverend Sunshine. So,
Oh, good.
thank you.
So if there's no one else, then I think that we can turn this back to Reverend Sally to let us know all the great things that are going on, like the listening circle this coming Sunday, and please sign up for it. So I will turn it over. Thank you.
Thank you, Constance. What a fabulous evening we have, as you can tell, started cultivating authenticity here at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. And I'm sure we all look forward to even more of that. So if Peter can bring up our slides for the announcements, we will go into them. And as Constance, I think, said earlier today, we are celebrating Women's History Month this month of March. And today is actually the International Women's Day, which is a global holiday celebrated annually on March 8th as a focal point in the women's rights movement, bringing attention to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women. The earliest version of this holiday was purportedly a Women's Day organized by the Socialist Party of America in New York City on February 28, 1909. International Women's Day became a mainstream global holiday following its adoption by the United Nations in 1977. So this coming Sunday, March 12th, Reverend Sunshine Michelle will be speaking on dropping the masks and bushels. The meditation starts at 10 a.m. and the service starts at 10:30. Remember, though, the daylight savings time begins this Sunday at 2 a.m. You will be springing forward, so set your clocks ahead 1 hour to get to the service on time. And next Wednesday, as practitioner Bonnie Gonzalez just said, she will be following up the Sunday discussion on dropping the masks and bushels. Meditation on Wednesday evening begins at 6:30 and the service starts at 7 p.m. on Zoom. This Thursday, tomorrow, Reverend Sunshine's class, The Art of Active Listening, begins at 6:30 p.m. This Friday, March 10th, is the Oakland Center's annual meeting. Everyone is invited to attend, and the meeting starts at 6 p.m. on Zoom. The details can be found on the events page. Sunday, March 12th, we're going to begin those community listening circles with Reverend Sunshine Michelle after the service. Now, this is going to be a hybrid experience, so you can either bring your own lunch or purchase a light snack for $10 there at the center, or if you pre-register on the events page, you will be given the Zoom link for the hybrid portion of this meeting. The in-person portion will be in the social hall. And get ready to celebrate on March 25th as we have the installation and celebration of our new minister, not so new anymore, but Reverend Sunshine Michelle. It'll be taking place March 25th at 1 p.m. And again, pre-registration is necessary. The link is on the events page for the registration. So as always, for the information on all that's going on at the Oakland Center, you're encouraged to visit our website, sign up for the weekly newsletter, the Thursday Village News, and you can also follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for other special updates and content that you'll only find by liking and subscribing to Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. So don't forget, like and subscribe to us today. As you see on the screen here, this is our contact team. If you have any questions or information that you'd like to share, please reach out to any one of these individuals. So that is our announcements for this evening. And now we're going to move into our joyous giving time. So as we do so, we say our giving affirmation, and we say it from our hearts. We say it with gusto. Joyously I give, with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive. And as you might know, there are at least 5 ways to give to the center. Click the donate icon, and then you'll have the opportunity to give by credit card, by mail, by Zelle, by text, or in the sanctuary by the offering basket on a Sunday service. All right, that is everything in my announcements for this evening. And what I'd like to do now is first and foremost say thank you to Constance for her talk and taking us through this journey of Ninsabar. It has been fabulous. The breakout and everything was fabulous. So please show her some appreciation here. And I will turn it over to Constance to pray us out, along with the thank yous for everyone. Thank you.
Well, before I do that, Gabrielle just said this wasn't on the web page, and she's absolutely right. No wonder no one's registering. Okay, it'll be there first thing tomorrow. Thank you for letting me know that, Gabriella. And the other question before I pray out, did anyone, now because this is the only story you know about Inanna, you may not be able to do this, but did anyone figure out who Ninsabar is in terms of the science of mind thought process? I can give you a hint. Every time Inanna asks something to be done, Ninsabar does it.
It's the law.
It's
Hear
the
it.
law, absolutely. So just because different cultures at different times use different words didn't mean the concepts weren't there. So, so just taking a breath and just sitting in gratitude for all that exists, gratitude for that the divine presence, it is always with us. That divine energy that is, that fills us and surrounds us and holds us. That energy, which is the energy of incredible love and joy. That energy that loves our masks as much as it loves our authentic selves. And how very grateful I am for this time we've had together tonight. How grateful I am for the rich sharing, the insights, people's willingness to delve deep. And I just know that as people, no one has to go anywhere tonight. They just have to turn the Zoom off and sit back and enjoy themselves so that everyone is safe. They have a beautiful night, that they take this energy into their day, into their evening, and into the next day. And so again, I'm just so very grateful. So please join me in saying, and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.